Kotobukiya takes a trip back to Camp Crystal Lake. This is your relook at the Kotobukiya Friday the 13th Part 3 ArtFX Jason Voorhees 1/6 scale pre-painted PVC statue. Jason Voorhees is back and ready to stalk your statues with the Horror Icons addition to the ArtFX line. At 11 inches tall, the ArtFX Jason Voorhees looms as he holds a machete or hatchet at the ready. Your choice thanks to interchangeable parts based on his appearance in Friday the 13th Part 3. This Jason Voorhees statue is perfect for fans of the horror franchise. Before we take a trip back to Camp Crystal Lake and again look at the ArtFX release of Friday the 13th Part 3 Jason Voorhees, that's a bit of a mouthful. First thing we're going to do is calculate just how tall the ArtFX statue actually stands. And the reasoning why we're looking at this again, this came as a request from viewer Joe, who wanted to see what the ArtFX statue Jason looked like again. And more than happy to oblige, as really this is my favorite of the ArtFX statue release. A little biased, of course, I'm sure, to the fact that it is, after all, Jason Voorhees. But still, nonetheless, looking forward to, again, looking at this statue. It's one of my personal favorites. Jason Voorhees stands, get a good gander at this, at 11.7 inches in height. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the statue standing almost 30 centimeters, 29.7 to be exact. Before we go and check out the things that come included with the Jason Voorhees, why don't we first remove him from the display stand? Yes, because if you do happen to pick up this one for yourself, the base of Jason is separate from the rest of the statue. I'm just removing it for the time being, just to show you what it looks like, and then to show you how it attaches back into place. Clearly, it looks the terrain of the interior of the barn from Friday the 13th Part 3. All you can see is this hay that's just blanketed across from one end to the other. It's got some nice discoloration to it. So even like the hay on the surface here is a little bit lighter than the stuff that's underneath it. So you can see all those individual little straws sticking up. That's a nice touch. The base is also not flat completely. There's all these little hills of hay. It's a really nice touch, so it does look like it's a little bit more of a terrain and not simply let's just texture a flat base. In case you're curious, that's what it looks like on the underside. Not the most exciting of things to be looking at, no. But then there's a couple of peg holes. One is a different shape than this one right here. Gives you a good, strong idea of which way Jason's going to be facing. Or if your memory is just really good, you just remember which way I had him facing in the first place. But if you look on the underside, there's definitely unique shapes going on here. This one a lot larger than the heel. So it gives you a straight idea as to which way it's supposed to go. Generally, when it comes to attaching the figure, I usually attach the front of the foot first, because I find that the heel, let me just show you the back side here. We're going to flip Jason upside down. The heel doesn't completely connect to that peg, just not yet at least. What you have to do is just sort of stretch it. I'm pushing it forward this way and then pushing it down. And that gives Jason a good strong footing, ready to start slaying counselors. Let's have a look at the accessories that come included with it. Two weapons and an arm are the other things that come included with this statue. Let's have a look at those right now. First, if you fancy your Jason wielding an axe, then don't worry, Kotobukiya comes included with this Jason, an axe. Now the axe does have a noticeable seam line. You can probably see it right there. There we go. If we just get the camera to focus, there we go. There's a seam line right there where the two halves of the axe are supposed to detach. And this is perfect for then fitting into his hand, so you don't have to pry the fingers open. Smart the way that they did that. The downside, though, is obviously it's going to see a big noticeable, you're certainly going to see a big noticeable seam line. So usually when it comes to displaying it in Jason's hand, I'm usually lining it. Don't worry, I'll show you guys that in a second. As for the head of the axe, the only thing I don't really care for on it is that it has all these little spots. The bottom of the axe is nice. It's got a little bit of a bird sort of edged paint job. So there's like a discoloration where they've added some silver paint. That's a nice touch. But I'm not really sure why it has to have all these extra dots all over it. It's on the end of the axe, and it's also on this side as well. It's about the only thing that stands out as a bad thing for me. The one of the things I don't really care for when it comes to the design of the axe. I mean, like, the axe looks good. It has a nice wood grain done to the handle portion. It's about the only thing I don't like is these little dots. Not really sure why they had to be there in the first place. To attach this into Jason's arm, I'm going to just actually remove his arm. Don't worry, I didn't break it. It's supposed to be like this. And all you do is just detach the axe like this, slide one side from the bottom, and then meet your happy neighbor along the top there, and just connect the two together. Now, if you have it in such a place, just like here, for example, you don't see that seam line, that thing that was bothering me before. Granted, yes, if you have it a little bit higher up, for example, here we go, you can see that the detached area of the axe is quite a bit of a standout. It stands out like a sore thumb. So usually I'll just kind of line it up around the seam line so you're not going to see it as much. And then from there, you're just going to go ahead and put the arm back in place. It's not really that you had to take the arm off. I just did it because it was a lot easier to show you in the video. So he does come with that as an option to display the figure. Looks good, looks great. But what about the machetes? Yells somebody in the background. I'm a little concerned that you're yelling and inquiring about sharp objects like machetes, but you're absolutely right though. Jason does come included with the machete. Now that would be, in some cases, a preferred look to display Jason with. Some people would rather have him be displayed with the machete, and you can do that because, again, like, these are just swappable accessories. The blade is generally quite dark, and then it's only you've got that little bit of silver that runs along the bottom area of it. You can see there's been some slashing streaks of blood that have been added across the blade here. The handle is a nice touch. They've added a little bit of weathering to that as well, just to show you what it looks like on the other side. Yep, definitely a fair bit of blood. Jason has been busy. And again, if you want to just display this in his hand, it's just a case, again, of removing the axe from either side. And in this case, I'm going to, again, remove the arm off completely, just because it's a lot easier. And then you're just going to take the handle and just shimmy it. Shimmy it. Probably not often at times you use that word, but we're going to use it here. You're just going to shimmy the axe, the machete handle through until it finally fits into Jason's arm. And then you have that option as well. So you can either go axe, you can go machete, but there's one other way that you can display Jason as well. That's because Jason also comes included with a bent arm. It's pretty much the same arm as what we got before, but instead of draping to his side, he's got something that looks more like the letter L. Now this attaches the exact same way, and it wields and holds both accessories the exact same way. So for example, if you want to take the axe, fit it from the bottom, make sure you know which way an axe goes, feed it from the bottom like that, and then meet your happy little neighbor along the top there, and you've got him holding the axe this way. Just to show you how it looks, we go ahead and just detach this, just free it from its socket, and then we can go ahead and then add the bent arm. It's really a matter of preference as to which way you want to go. I kind of, in a way, prefer to have the Jason's arm straight. Again, just to show you how they look side to side. But it's nice the fact that you do get the options available that you can display Jason either way. This hand, I feel, this arm configuration, I feel fits better with the idea of wielding a machete. And whereas I feel the straight arm almost works better for holding the axe. But as you can certainly see here in this video, you can't pull off both looks with both machetes using either one of the arms. And just to show you what it looks like, we're going to take the machete out from Jason's grip, just like so. You will want to be careful. This little piece that's sticking out from the handle, you don't want to get that stuck in there, and before you know it, you break it. And then you run upstairs and you cry for the rest of the afternoon. Don't do that. We're going to go ahead, though, and just detach the axe. We're going to put that to the side. And again, I'm just going to remove it from the socket. It's just a lot easier, especially if you're doing this on camera. If you pick the statue up for yourself, you're probably not going to be filming it. Maybe you will be, I don't know. But for the sake of this review, it's just a lot easier for me to remove the arm. There we go. And then fit the machete in place. The grip is a little on the tighter side on this hand, notably, than this arm right here. It does seem like the grip's just a little bit wider on the straight arm than on this one right here. But just again, to show you, it attaches in place. And as you could probably see, maybe you will agree, maybe you'll disagree. I think the machete works a little bit better with having the arm bent rather than having the arm straight. I think the arm straight, again, works a little bit better for holding and carrying around the axe. So let's finally have a look at Jason Voorhees. The statue itself, now that we've spent a fair bit of time, more time than probably was necessary to discuss all his accessories, the statue itself is rather quite impressive. It's depicting Jason Voorhees in all his hump splendor, pulled from Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, obviously, in Friday the 13th Part 3, he has some notable disfigurations when it comes to not only the way he walks, but obviously what's underneath the mask as well. And I feel like it's captured quite nicely here from Kotobukiya. One thing I did notice on this particular piece, in its even initial review, and I'll mention again in this one, is he does have a lot of additional girth in his neck. I don't know if it maybe could be considered too much, but I think it works well for the statue. I mean, there's a lot of additional deformations, you could say, necessarily in his neck. I mean, there's a lot of cool texturing that they put in his neck. Even if it's a little, I feel, exaggerated to the way it looks in the film, it definitely does look quite good here as a statue. It even has the section with the deformed ear also sculpted there in place. The coloring is really good on this. It's hard to kind of see this and bear witness to this unless you physically have this in hand. And hopefully this video is sort of helping to show you how good the paint actually is on this piece. The top of the head is slightly more of a lighter color, and it seems to get slightly more darker as it gets around the area of the ears, a rare area around the neck, and the area around the front section there, where it has also these little areas of discoloration that they've also added there as well. Of course, we would be completely wrong to omit the details that they put into the mask itself. And this is classic Friday the 13th 3 mask. Though I do feel like they've added some additional dirt around the outer area and the areas around the eyes. I'm actually kind of looking at the mask. It reminds me more of the remake Friday the 13th Jason mask than it does Friday the 13th Part 3. Because the mask here does come across a little more dirtier. You can really see a lot of that dirt happening along the side area here. The mask is a more darker color than I feel also in the film, but again, this is more of their inspired look, kind of taking the inspiration from Friday the 13th Part 3 and sort of going with it as to what they want to do with the design. And I think it works well for Jason. Yes, he has a big, broader neck. Yes, he has the darker, more grungier looking mask. Again, a lot of this reads more remake Jason than it does actually Part 3 Jason, but I think, again, it works well for this statue. Of course, the rest of the outfits, the rest of the statue, is sporting more traditional Jasons, being the olive-colored shirts and, of course, the colored pants, which actually in the movie come across more like silver color, like a silverish blue. Here it's almost a more straight-out light blue. So yes, there's a little bit of discoloration issues when it comes to what they ended up doing with the statue, based on its original then source material. The blue, I think, is a little on the light side, but it does work quite well with the additional gray that they've airbrushed to the areas, the wrinkled areas on the pants. He's got a few little wounds. There's one there, for example, on the side of his leg. Nice little fresh gash. There's even a bit of blood that's started to seep its way into the fabric of the pants. And then he also has one gash here located on the side of his hand. I like how dirty and grungy his fingernails are as well. I certainly would hope not to ever have my fingernails look that discolored, but I really like the coloring that they used for the arm here. It's a really, really nice combination of flesh tones, and then they've added these little off-colored blues that they've added in there as well. Flip the statue around, and certainly here's what it looks like on the back. Again, you've got a lot of that dark, kind of dark olive-colored gray working here with an airbrushing that they've added on top of it so that all those wrinkles stand out on the statue. Sticklers for detail probably could say that Jason could have afforded a little bit more blood than what he actually has, considering that he's got it all over across his machete. There's no denying the fact that he's just recently killed somebody, and yet the blood is nowhere else on the figure, not on his hands, not on his arms, certainly not on his shirt, and definitely not on his pants. This could have been an opportunity not to add excessive amounts, because I feel that would pull a lot away from the statue, but just a little splashing, sprinkling, and little dots of blood, maybe somewhere around his pants, in the lower area around his shirt, where you would imagine he'd be slashing with the machete, would probably then splash up around the shirt. He even doesn't have it anywhere on his shoes either. His shoes are just straight out black, or slightly more dark gray. Again, I feel they could have added a little bit of blood, most definitely here on the shoes. And even further to that, they probably could have even added some droplets of blood sprinkled across the hay. The hardest part, though, is knowing where to stop. I mean, in this case, Jason's kept pretty clean and pristine. I think once you start getting to the idea of splashing blood on this, you can really get away with that too much to the point where it ruins the statue. In that regard, they kept it minimal enough. I mean, they again only have it in the knee area and they only have it in the arm. I think just a little bit goes a long way. I wouldn't certainly want to have this guy completely soaked in blood. I think that would pull a lot away from the statue. Just a little bit goes a long way. One last look at Jason's face before we pack up shop for the day. I spent a fair bit of time talking about the mask and how it was discolored, more darker and grungier than the original Friday the 13th 3 mask, but I didn't spend any time really talking about Jason's eyes, which you can almost barely see. There's just enough of the reflection of his eyes to know that he's staring right back at you. I like that they've got it far enough back on the mask that you only see just traces of those eyeballs. They're still in there, and I'm sure you're curious as to whether the mask is removable. The answer to that question is no. Going back to a mentioned point before about having the blood all over the place on Jason Voorhees, I really feel an opportunity was missed by Kotobukiya not to simply re-release this guy with an unmasked portrait. I gotta believe there's something going on underneath that mask, unless they probably just only sculpted this section around his eyes. But I certainly don't want to break the mask to pull it off and see what exactly is going on underneath. It's obviously not advertised to have a removable mask, so for that reason I think there's nothing really sculpted underneath that, other than just a barren wasteland, except for the areas around his eyes. But again, I feel like Kotobukiya could have easily released this guy. That would have, of course, involved a new sculpting of face here. But they could have easily just re-released this same statue. It's already a solid sculpt on Jason Voorhees. Re-release him again with a removable mask, or a mask completely off altogether, and then put more blood and stuff all over his body. But it's not, unfortunately, something that they did. Unfortunately, when it came to the release of the Kotobukiya ArtFX Jason Voorhees, it was a case of a one and we're done. I don't know if it was just licensing that was the issue, or if they only had the intended plan of ever releasing just one Jason Voorhees. So if anything, they did pick Jason Voorhees from his more classic look from Friday the 13th Part 3. Other people will say that it wasn't necessarily the case of a one and we're done, because we did, of course, get the horror Bashoujo release of Jason Voorhees, but that's only really for the collectors out there that enjoy female cosplayer versions of their horror slasher icons. I prefer those looks as well. I like the designs of the horror Bashoujo, but like many collectors out there, I want to still get the main guy behind the hockey mask. So again, this is the only way that Kotobukiya released it, and at least they pulled it from Friday the 13th Part 3. He's got a great looking pose to him. I love the display and the way that they've got him standing on a display stand that's got hay on it. Obviously, that's pulling it from the barn in Friday the 13th Part 3. He has a swappable arm, which is a nice touch as well. So if you want to either have him with the straight draping arm, or if you want to have the arm bent, you have those options available. And of course, he does have swappable accessories to go along with those hands. You can either mix and match. You can really decide to display the figure really any way you want. Bent arm with a hatchet, straight arm with the machete, or like I said, you can mix that up as well. The downside to it is it does mean that you're going to see a noticeable seam where the arm attaches to the rest of the torso. It's unfortunately just one of those things that you just can't get around. Obviously, because the arm is going to be able to be detachable, you're going to see the seam where it's supposed to go into the socket. It's unavoidable. The paint on this guy is really quite good. Yes, they probably could have added just a little bit of blood. But the problem with it is knowing where to stop. A little bit of blood can get to a lot of blood, and before you know it, this Jason is soaked from head to toe. I guess if anything, they kept it in moderation. They kept it only to the machete, they kept it to his hand, and they kept it to his knee. And the rest of it is pretty much clean-looking Jason, which I guess at the end of the day works better than a heavily soaked Jason. Certainly also, this would have been a prime opportunity for Kotobukiya to venture into the idea of releasing this guy as a variant, where they could have obviously done an unmasked portrait, and then maybe, yeah, they could have thrown some extra blood on him as well. But again, it wasn't the case. We got one Jason, and that was it. To be fair, though, it's a better looking Jason than the Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger that we've also looked at on this channel. I feel like I want to go back and revisit that one as well. Of the two, I prefer the Jason Voorhees myself. It just looks like a better looking statue. And the sculpt, because he's wearing, of course, the hockey mask, you don't have to work around the difficulties of sculpting a portrait, which was really, I feel, the case when it came to Freddy Krueger. Let me know down below in the comments section, though, what you guys think of the Friday the 13th Part 3 Jason Voorhees ArtFX statue. And again, hopefully, the viewer Joe has had a chance to watch this. If you guys certainly would love to see me go back and re-review anything that I've reviewed in the past, let me know down below in the comments section. And most definitely, if I still have it, I can definitely consider the idea of re-reviewing it. Also, if you're liking the channel and maybe you're new to the channel, haven't yet had a chance to do so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn that friendly notification bell on, so that when future videos are coming onto this channel, you'll get those friendly reminders. And just an FYI, you don't have to write this down, it's pretty easy to remember, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you'll find new videos popping up on this channel. So keep your peepers peeled for those. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.